How many times have you felt like, oh my God, why can't this person just see my side? And you keep engaging and they keep quote unquote provoking you and you just can't let it go and you can't do anything but keep engaging. Well, yeah, that's opposite of what you need to do. Welcome to episode 51 of the Positivity Experience. You got to disengage. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 51 of the Positivity Experience. I hope your holiday was amazing. If you celebrate the holiday season, I hope that your holiday was amazing. I will assume mine was great. I am actually going to record this before Christmas, because here in the States it's Sunday and or Christmas, the day after Christmas, and it's just by then I like to take down everything, and I just thought, you know what, let me record this now so you can have it the day after Christmas. And I feel like it's important because what's going to happen is your New Year's is coming up, which again, fake time, like the calendar's kind of fake and time only exists now. But here as humans, we always base things on what's going to, what do you want 2022 to look like and all that stuff. Just don't get it twisted. Like you need that time to make a fresh start, because you could do your fresh start today. Like it could be literally the 26th of December and you can do your fresh start right now. It doesn't have to be later. Stop pushing things away, right? But this leads me into something that I feel like has to be talked about before we start taking you into the new year. Like I can't have you, which you will, right? Because it's not going to happen overnight, but I can't have you carrying all of the negativity and bitterness and anger towards things and people and situations in life going into 2021 and then 2022 and expecting yourself to have this fabulous year. So here's the deal. And I stand by this. And we will talk about this frequently on every possible platform, is stop engaging in trying to be right. You have two choices. Be right, because first of all, right is relative to you. So let's be clear in that. If you feel wronged, then that's your feelings. Remember, feelings aren't facts, they're perceptions. That's your feeling, right? And you feel as though you were done dirty or you felt some kind of way. You're allowed your feelings. The part that you have to understand is nobody else is you. Nobody has to have that same feeling. Nobody has to agree with your feelings. So if you've ever had somebody apologize to you and they say to you, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you take offense to that because they didn't say, I'm sorry, and just leave it there. Why would they be sorry? If they said it, they don't need to be sorry. Now, it's how you take it. It's your perception. So when you get yourself in trouble is when you aren't comfortable in your own truth and you feel as though everybody else wants to get over on you. That is a you issue. And the sooner you realize, and I will put this in every possible way possible, is that you have to realize no one else has to do what you do. That's expecting you out of somebody, and that's expecting them to make you feel better. Human beings can't make you feel better. So let's say we've all been here. Somebody comes at you. You've probably heard me talk about it. The sky is green. And you're like, okay, like, cool. Like, that's funny. Oh, you're serious. Okay. No, the sky is blue. Nope. The sky's green. And you think to you, your sky is blue. Okay. Now, maybe you don't know this person that well. Maybe you don't know if they're colorblind. Maybe that's just how they see it. Maybe they want to see the world through rose-colored glasses. And that's beautiful. Let them have it. Stop trying to get them to see it from your perspective. See, you think that you need to constantly be in battle to educate. I had someone on TikTok. I did a post and someone said, they were talking about, because I was talking about stop like forcing your belief system on somebody. And, they said, well, what if you're just trying to educate them? Well, cool. But did they ask to be educated? Right. And, this, you see it hard on a big scale, like my kids are biracial, my husband's African-American. So you see things kind of hard to let go of, like for us in this house, love is love. We don't, worry about who's dating who or what gender or what religion or color. So in my house and who I surround myself with, that's just how it's going to be. Like I can't surround myself by people who don't align with me. Now, that being said, I'm not going to try to convince you to change your opinion. That is so much wasted energy when I can channel that inside myself on a million things I got to work on within myself. More of my consistency within different practices that I do at home privately. And, just that's my energy. Yeah. Do I like how racism is? Absolutely not. Have my children been on the receiving end of it? They have. But here's my choices. I can do what I can do. Like I educate, I educate my kids and let them know, hey, listen, you can't fight everybody, and everybody's not going to see it from your perspective. They understand that. Now, it did take my son throwing somebody into the locker and beating their ass after calling him the N-word, which deserved greatly, to be like, okay, cool. Now everybody stop messing with them. And I'm not co-signing for everybody to do that. So don't get all your panties in a bunch and be like, oh, you're saying you have to fight people. I'm saying you don't have to fight people. At the time, my son's 25 now. He would have responded very different to that situation. But what happened was, at that time, he had been called the N-word for 4 years and never stood up for himself. The deal is this: I can't solve it for him. See, a lot of you would be like, well, God, could you do it? What am I going to do? He is a black male man. A black male man, a male and a man. I guess you kind of figured that. So he's a black man, and he's going to have something that I can't teach him. And even my husband said he's got to figure it out. Like, you can't always come in on a white horse to save somebody. I'm a knight on a white horse and I'm coming to save the day. Like, you can't do that. And you can educate and you can be there and you can, do what you can do. But at the end of the day, people are going to think how they want to think and how they react. You can't stop them. So the engaging of this, and this is more on a personal, not a big scale like racism and things like that. This is more on a personal scale of where you always want somebody to see your perspective and your point, and you want them to validate you. External validation cannot give you inner peace. I will say it 100 million times. So when you're catching yourself getting triggered by the anger. Remember, anger is not a true emotion. Anger comes from fear, frustration, or hurt. Yes, it could be all at the same time, but anything that you're angry about is going to fall in one of those categories, or 3. Okay? So you got to check yourself. Let somebody win the day. See, the problem is you don't want them to win, quote unquote win. They're winning anyway. You're the one that's engaging in battle with them, and then you're the one that's miserable. They don't care. Get that in your head. No one is thinking about you 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're the one laying there awake. No one owes it to you. If you can't accept that, that's when you got to make sure you're in life coaching or therapy. You got to get it there. And by the way, it's you getting it. It's not the therapist. It's not the life coach. It's not any of that. It is you. You are saying you can't do it. You're choosing not to. You're choosing to say, if I don't stand my ground with this argument, right? Again, I'm not talking racism. I'm talking smaller scale. Okay. Because realistically, you're probably not in a relationship with somebody who's racist. And if you are, then you might want to reevaluate it if you don't align with that, But again, that goes back to the engagement. You can keep engaging and keep wanting people to change. They're not underwear. This is the big acceptance piece of life. You don't want to let go, because then that means that you give the person free rein. Why do you still have to keep them in your life? Right? Like, why do these people still have to be here? Why? Because they're family? Don't do that. Don't do that, because family doesn't get a free pass. Okay. Like I said, if you have boundaries, you have them all the way across the board. But if you wake up every morning and you decide you're going to be Mighty Mouse and you're ready for battle from the time you hit the door, I lived that life. Remember, I lived that life of chronic engagement, chronic anger, right? Because basically fear, frustration, and hurt. I lived that. I constantly would be in battle with it. Now, that being said, you don't let people get over on you, but you don't engage in battle. You distance yourself. See, you got to realize, you got to walk away, man. You gotta walk away. Again, if it's really, really bad and it gets a little cray-cray, then, hey, different things happen. But I'm saying that's more or less something that is going to be rare. But let them talk to an empty space. Let them argue. Hey, I think you're an asshole. Okay. You are. I heard you. See, you're letting their words cut you, right? And you're letting their words get to you, or their actions get to you, and yet you're still there around them. You're still there around them. Nothing's going to change until you change, right? Nothing changes until you change. And the art of engagement, right? You can be kind to yourself and still realize, hey, I'm going to respond and I'm not going to react. Because if somebody comes barking at you and they talk mad shit to you, you can say, I'm not going to stand here and be talked to this way. Or if you're on the phone, I'm not going to be talked to this way. Hang up. Don't goodbye. Bye. Just click. Don't say bye. Hang up. If they're in your face, walk away. Let them follow you for a minute. Walk away. They can't argue with an empty space. See, you think that somehow or another that's a sign of weakness. It is not. That's you stepping in your power. I have been in multiple situations over the last 50 years of my life where I've just stared at somebody while they get all angry, because see, people don't like to be called out on their stuff, and I could care less. Your reaction isn't going to bother me. And so they'll sit there and they'll try to say bad things about you or talk about this or talk about that. They're trying to elicit a response from you. I'll just stare at them. And after a while, they're like, that's stupid. And then they end up walking away. Right? Or I end up walking away. But then again, I'll just stare at you. You can sit there and argue with me. I'll just stare you right in your face. And the thing is you have to realize that just because you are engaging doesn't mean someone's hearing you. Please hear that. Just because you're engaging doesn't mean someone is hearing you, and it definitely doesn't mean that they are going to change their mind. For sure, it does not. Okay, so keep this in mind, because when you're engaging, and you will find these people, there are people, my dad was like this. I've had a lot of people in my life like this. They love to argue. Seriously, love to argue. We've talked about my dad. Clearly he had a lot of issues. We know he was bipolar, for sure had anxiety, a little bit of pedophilia in there. There was a lot of stuff going in there. And so, of course, he didn't love himself. So he's going to be miserable the entire time. Seriously, if you clicked the pin wrong, it was too loud. If you didn't click it fast enough, it was too slow. Everything was hypercritical. And, at the time, that's all I had, right? I was great. Okay. But even then I knew how to bubble myself. It wasn't quite as effective once I healed, but I'd go in the bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom, shut the door, let him yell to the empty room. Right? So there were spaces that I learned quickly. Now, some of that was out of fear, right? Because I didn't know if I was going to get hit or touched, or I don't know. But so some of that was out of fear. So it was more of an avoidance when I was doing it. So now from a healthy space, that's not avoidance. I'm not asking you to be an avoidant. I'm not asking you to walk away and not have an opinion or a feeling or stand up for yourself. Didn't say that. But you do not engage in anger. You wait until you process it so you can articulate it the next day or a week later, not too much further than that, depending on the situation. And you allow yourself to process it and then come at them with peace, calm, and logic. This does not mean they are going to hear you or respond the way you want. I need you to hear that too. They do not have to respond how you want them to. But for you to articulate yourself, people are going to hear you far more when you process it, wait, and don't always blame the other person. Is there some space in there that you can say, okay, maybe it was my tone. Oh, maybe I did this. Or, don't say, oh, I know I provoked you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because one person can't make another person do something or feel something. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. So you have to realize you will be far more heard, okay, when you step back and process it so you can respond and not react. See, I think early on, especially when you've had a lot of trauma and you didn't feel like your voice was heard and you felt like, you were getting overrun or you were traumatized, that as you get older, you decide no one's ever going to do that to me again. I told you that's a wall, not a boundary. It's a really hard pill to swallow. I understand that and I validate it 100%. But you also have to realize you have two choices of your heart. We've talked about this. You choose your heart. Stay the way you are. Stay in situations that you are mentally, right? Because sometimes you can't do anything about your externals, but you can with your internals. And you stay there. Is that hard? Is it miserable? Is that hard? Okay. Or are you going to work towards it and make the change and accept that, hey, some of these people who may not align with you and they may never see your perspective or they don't just mesh with you, then you got to be okay with releasing them. Again, this includes family. See, and I bring this up because, and I'm recording this before Christmas, but you're going to hear it right after Christmas. And I got to tell you, there are so many people who are like, I don't understand. Like, I don't want to go to this family function. My sisters are trying to guilt me into it. Listen, they're going to try their hand. I've told you that. It's human nature to be like, hey, you know what? I want you to be here. Okay, you can want all you want. But just because you want it doesn't mean that you're going to actually achieve it and get it. Okay. So what you also have to realize is where are you done with the exhaustion of things? Like, where are you done on the level of what can be exhausted? Like the efforts that are exhausted. Let's say it's a relationship. Let's say it's a job. Let's say it's a friendship. And you've gone to therapy and couples counseling and you've been there and it's not new. We've been here before. We were here 5 years ago. And okay, at what point are you waiting? Like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Right? I know sometimes finances can be a thing, right? So you have to ask yourself, okay, cool, finances are a thing, but what does it mean to me to sit there and keep holding on and holding on and holding on versus, okay, what can I do to get out of this? And I can figure out what, talk to a lawyer. And by the way, you don't need money for that all the time because a lot of legal services, courthouses will have like a day of like 15 minutes where you can talk and you can ask them for legal advice. So you can utilize these things. It's not all about money. So the moment you already tell yourself, I can't afford to do that, you've already put a roadblock there because there's ways that you can find free resources. There really is. Now, you might not have it optimal. You might not have as much time as not paying for it. Valid and fair. But I'm talking about their resources are there, and don't go on just Google. Like literally talk to somebody who's like a legal representative, even if it's virtually. But there are free resources. So you have to ask yourself, where am I able to exhaust this? At what point do I walk away? Or what point do I just throw the towel in, for a lack of a better term? And see, a lot of that too is you think that that makes you some sort of a failure. It so does not. It so does not. Marriage is a legal binding agreement. Seriously, you don't have to, just because you have a 5-carat ring on your finger and you're married with a piece of paper and 2.5 kids in a house, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you are going to be happy. And that also doesn't mean love. Marriage doesn't show love. I mean, it does. It says, okay, I'm going to make this official. But at the end of the day, it is a legally binding contract. So now you can get the other person's benefits, their Social Security when something happens, or if something happens, or when it does. And so let's not make it more than it is. Okay. Like, again, love my marriage. Been with Paul, like I said, 14 years. We've been together 16 years. But I would love him even if I wasn't married to him. Right. So, and I got married when I was 30 to him. I got married when I was 35. I definitely wouldn't get married again. And it has nothing to do with not being happy with him. It's just, it's a legally binding contract, right? So buying a house for 30 years is far more of a commitment than the marriage is. And again, I'm not shitting on marriage. I am married. But I will say there is this level of security that I was looking for at 35 that I wouldn't have to look for now at 50, right? So there is that, but it's this false sense of security. It's a false sense of this is your person forever. I think for some reason people think that this is like an ownership deed of another human, and it isn't, right? I will say I'm extremely happy with Paul now. And I say now because we've gone through our bumps and bruises, nothing crazy, but that's why we communicate. I'm very quick to be like, I'm checking the fuck out. Like, let's talk. Like, there's something up. Like, I can't do this. Like, let's sit down and talk about it. And I say, okay, what have I been doing? Do I look distant? Do I feel distant? Because I am, and this is why. And I talk about my side and then his side because I can hear about myself. He can say, you're being a bitch. And I'd be like, yeah, I am. The moment you can't take that from your spouse, then that's a problem. Because you're not perfect. You're going to screw up. Like it. Deal with it. You know what I mean? You can't sit there and expect everybody else to bow down to you in your marriage, and then you're not willing to take accountability, and all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault but your own. It's not. When you live with somebody, whether it be kids or spouses or parents, you're going to get on each other's nerves. Sometimes you're not even going to like the people in your house. That's okay. Stop with the whole guilt stuff. Guilt is a roadblock. Literally, that's what guilt is, a roadblock. Right? So And I bring that up because, and I was talking about the engagement, is because a lot of times you're holding on to something because you think you have to hold on to something. And then you're constantly in an engagement. They're breathing wrong. They're swallowing wrong. They're chewing wrong. Everything is engaging in battle. They've said one day, hey, did you take your Zoloft? You lose your mind because you're like, what are you calling me crazy? And you're like, dude, I just asked if you took my Zoloft. It's not a problem for me. If somebody in here is like, did you take your happy pills? I'm like, did I? No, I didn't. They're like, yeah, we know. And I was like, I know. Be okay with that. You're taking everything so personal, which is why you feel the need to engage. And it's literally like putting a round peg into a square hole. You're trying to get them to see it from your perspective. Valid to have communication. I hear you, and I'm co-signing the whole communication thing. Nobody's going to know what you want. Stop being like, well, they should know. No, they should not. You can tell them your needs, but not in a way like, well, I need you to do this. I need this. This is my love language. Me, my. Well, okay. Well, what is it that they need? There's got to be that happy medium. And guess what? Some days you're not going to have it. Some weeks you're not going to have it. Some weeks you're going to be like, I don't even know if this is my life anymore. That's okay. Okay. So I'm not saying not to communicate, but if you find that communication becomes futile, like where you're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to try this again. I keep talking to the same freaking wall. Nothing is happening. Okay, then you got to know when to bow out, man. You got to know when to bow out. It's the same thing that I've seen a lot like with the holiday. Like I said, I'm recording it right before, but people are like, well, you can't come over if you're not vaccinated. And people are like, well, I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. And okay, oh my God. Okay, rules are rules for you. I've told you, my house is a vaccinated house. No, you go do you. Would I like to see everybody vaccinated personally? Sure. And is that going to be my big thing that I'm going to put on every platform? No. Get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. My rule is you just won't hang out with me and you won't be in my house, right? And there's like 3 people that I know who aren't vaccinated. Rarely are they in my home. But if they do, they will wear a mask and it'll be for a very, very brief time. And it's only because they're very special people to me. And I'm not going to let my sort of mentality of what I feel about it affect my friendship with them. It's just not going to happen. But they also know that about me. They're not going to come over and be like, well, I'm not going to wear a mask coming to your house. Like, they're not going to do that. Or they're not going to be like, okay, I understand we have to sit outside by the fire because you don't want me in your house. They're not going to sit here and argue with me about it. And I'm not going to argue with them to do it. See, you have to realize, is there a happy medium somewhere? And just because it's your mom or your cousin or your brother or your sister, let it go. Stop trying to change them. Like I said, I have my belief on it. I'm pro for it. And if you're not, you're just not going to be rolling with me. And I'm not going to put myself in a situation outside of like the grocery store and things like that. But I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I got to worry about what is your status. Like, I'm just not going to do it. But I'm not going to worry about you either. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. You got to know, when can you engage in something and when can you not? When it's a global scale thing, racism, LGBTQ community stuff. I do a lot of animal, abuse stuff, like talking about it and education for people who want to be there. This doesn't mean I'm going to go force you to hear me. I will speak at things that people want to be there, right? I'm not going to force you to be there. I'm going to speak at things where you've chosen to be there so I can talk to you about it. Like, if you've chosen to listen to the podcast and we're talking about not engaging, then you've chosen to be here. If it wasn't your jam, then you're not on here. Right? But what wouldn't make sense is if it's not your jam and you're still listening, then don't listen. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of goes across the board with everything. Stop trying to save the world and focus on being the beacon of light in the world. See, that's 2 different things. Stop saving the world, but be the beacon of light in the world and let the ships find you. That's the whole thing. Let the ships see you, let them find you, but don't try to be there for every ship that comes into the port. You stay right where you are, just like a lighthouse. Lighthouse doesn't move, stays right there. Okay. So when you find yourself wanting to engage, I need you to check yourself. I need you to check yourself, because your version of right, their version of right is different. And do you want to be happy and peaceful, or do you want to be right? Because if you're constantly struggling to be right, you will be battling that for the rest of your life. See, you have to distance yourself and realize that people are different. They are going to be who they are, and it doesn't make them wrong for them. Okay. You don't need to know their why. And when you disengage, people will try to keep messing with you because they like to fight. They like the arguing. They like to be right. There's other times I've been like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know I'm right. I know I validated that. That's right. See, I know that when people come in hot and hurt people, I know that when they come in hot, that's something they're dealing with. Go be right. And guess what? They're going to go home, be right, and still be miserable. I'm going to be like, okay, cool. And I'm going to go order me some coffee, or I'm going to go do me. See, again, your ego is in play here. Your id more than anything, but your ego is in play here. Oh, I don't want them getting over me. I don't want them to just talk. Now, listen, I didn't say talk down to you. The moment somebody comes in sideways at you, you say, I'm not going to be talked to this way. And you walk away. Yes, including at work. It doesn't matter. Don't let your boss, don't let your parents, don't let anybody pull their rank over you to think that they can just talk to you anyway. That's not, and to engage is to disengage. I'm not going to be talked to this way. You literally just stood up for yourself, but then you got to walk away because they're going to pick and prod you. And do not be the person on the pick and prod side. Like, don't be that person. Don't be so hell-bent determined that you need to go jump down somebody's throat because they're not doing it the way that you are doing it or what it is that you want. Remember, you can't change their actions. You can only change your reaction. Okay? That's seriously, be clear on that. If you have a boss you don't like, if you have somebody you don't like, that's their stuff. You don't know what they're going through at home. No, they don't get to talk mad shit to you. You back up from it. And see, your fear will keep you there. Your people pleasing will keep you there, and your fear of money will keep you there. So then you got to ask yourself, am I willing to sacrifice? I could go anywhere else, somewhere else, do some work from home, something. It's there for the taking. You got to look for it. It might be a little bit less money. It might be a little bit more money, but is it going to be something that's going to give you a little bit better peace of mind? See, that's what I'm saying. And when it comes to relationships, you got to be in love with yourself first. You got to be your best friend, and you got to be in love with yourself first before any other relationship's remotely going to work. Okay? It's not selfish. It's called having a good foundation, because then you establish boundaries and your non-negotiables and your negotiables. In turn, then you don't waste anybody's time, and they don't waste your time, because you immediately are going to know when, okay, this relationship may not be going anywhere. And you cut that off at the head of the snake, right? You know what I mean? And so knowing that is going to really help you. So when you're engaging, you're really saying to yourself, I just don't know how. I can't stop doing it. The moment you tell yourself that go look in the mirror and remind yourself that's a you issue, and look at yourself in the mirror. You're not allowing yourself to practice. It's not going to be overnight, but you're not allowing yourself to practice the distance of the engagement. And again, if it's miserable, you got to make the decision. It's far better to be alone and peaceful than with somebody and chaotic. Literally listen to that again. It is far better, and it aligns with the universe, like we were talking about last week. It aligns with the universe. It aligns with your best and highest good when you're able to step away from something. Okay? So again, it is far better to be alone and peaceful. Don't say lonely. Don't do that, because when you're going to be lonely at first until you start working on yourself. Then you're going to feel whole. And then anybody that comes around you is going to be in alignment with you, and you're going to be in alignment with them. It's not just you, it's them too. And it's going to be a different vibe. Or do you just want to be up under people and have these random friends? It's not even about a love relationship. Have these friends who are kind of like super petty, and you're like, well, it's fine. I mean, at least like we go out together. Okay. But at what point are you sacrificing? So again, don't do that either. So you don't engage, and you don't hold on to something just because it seems like it's the easiest thing and you have this fear. And again, we'll do multiple podcasts on it, on, letting go and the art of letting go. And again, there's no magic button. There's no magic pill. There's no magic therapy. There's no magic anything that's going to teach you we'll teach you how to release it, but you have to execute it. So you're waiting for it to be like executed for you, or there's this magic, boom, just do this, this, and this, and execute it. No, that's not a thing. So what I want you to do is when you find yourself getting irritated and everything, later on too, like when you're processing it, ask yourself why it bothers you. Get into that why. Don't do it in that moment. You need to be away from the situation. And again, that's not avoidant, because you do have to go back and communicate what it is, or you distance completely, and not because you're afraid of communication or confrontation. That's not what I mean. That's avoidance. But when you're taking a minute to process, that's called maturity. That's called value of self. That's called value of the other person. That's in general. That's kindness to you and to the other human being. You can be confident and kind. You can be boundary setting and kind, not saying they have to think of it as kind, but you can be kind, because by releasing people, you also free them up to go be with someone else or go hang out with other people. You free them up to maybe find people who vibe with them. Okay, so that's your big homework this week. And I wanted to do it before New Year, just so you could kind of get an idea, like, hey, write it down on the paper, like write down some things that you're really struggling with. And when you engage, and notify the triggers in your head and say, oh, okay, this reminds me of when dad came at me, or cool, got you. But that's where you got to do the healing. And then next week, it'll be the second, right? Yeah, next week will be the second. Right? So we'll talk about how to structure and organize your year a little bit, and some things to kind of put down as like a staple for yourself. So that's what we'll talk about next week. But this is important, because this is something you have to carry in your whole life, right? Is you're engaging. Like I said, I block people like it's a profession. If you're on my socials and you come at me sideways, you're gone. If in real life it's a problem, you're gone. And it's not because I'm better than you. It's because I'm protecting my space. You're allowed to disagree, but if you come into my space and try to like railroad things or no, you got to go. I'm not going to engage in you. You know what I mean? And so you got to get to that space. And like we were talking about 2 weeks ago or last week, like when we were talking about, getting spiritual, balancing, when you're there and you have self-love and you're balanced, those people won't rattle you, and you will leave them talking to an empty space. Because remember, nobody can argue with an empty space. So check yourself and remind yourself you deserve to be heard, but nobody's going to hear you on who's barking the loudest. You got to get that out of your head. Okay. So I love you guys, and I hope your holiday was good, and I will talk to you next year. Doesn't that sound funny? That's right. Next year, which is next week. So I love you guys. I hope you guys had an amazing holiday, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the holiday week.